if we took away the price on pollution, more than two-thirds of Canadians would be worse off.
Mark Carney's adding to his team. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Who is Mark Carney adding to his team? He's adding a swindly rat from his past. That's who. A guy who was fired from the CBC of all places. We got Carney appointing other people. More chaos in Canada. Let's jump into this. We got this one here from Canada Proud. It says Mark Carney has hired former BlackRock manager Mark Wiseman, the co-founder of the Century Initiative, as an advisor. The Century Initiative is a lobbying group that aims to use mass immigration to increase Canada's population to 100 million. This is Justin Trudeau's plan, clearly Mark Carney's plan. Now the question is, what investments does Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney have related to real estate that's making them so rich? Because they know full well jacking the immigration this badly will jack up the housing prices. Was this whole thing just a scam to get rich and screw over Canadians? And not only Canadians, but the newcomers coming in, they get screwed over too, because they're okay for the first year that they're getting free money from the Canadian government, from us, the taxpayers, but after that, they're screwed. They're going to be in poverty if they haven't secured a lucrative job in that 1 year that they've been here. So it screws all of us. We got Melissa posting this one. Team Carney providing $2.55 billion so that Toronto can build rental homes. You own nothing and the government will be your landlord. This is not going to fix the housing crisis. You have to crack down on immigration, stop bringing in people, start building homes, crack down on foreign buying, no more Chinese money. Right now, Justin Trudeau put in a ban, which is still in place. It only bans foreign money in metropolitan major city areas. You can still have Chinese money and come and buy all the towns around it, land and farms and factories. All of it needs to be banned. We should have no foreign buying coming from China. The only thing we should be doing is reciprocal real estate purchases based on the country, as I said a few days ago, like Thailand or other countries. If we can buy in their country, they can buy in our country. But for right now, we shouldn't have any of that. Open that up later once we fix our housing crisis. So we got the man of the hour, Evan Solomon. I showed a brief clip on him before. We're diving deep into this here because former journalist Evan Solomon is running for federal Liberals in the next election. What do you know? Given the urgent challenges and threats facing Canadians right now, I've decided it's the right time to come home and do whatever I can to help my community and country, Solomon wrote. Yeah, no thanks. Go be a garbage man and take yourself out. That's no shade to garbage men. That's a hard job and a job that's necessary in society, and they work hard. Says Sullivan recently worked for the Eurasia Group. That's right. He worked with Mark Carney's wife at that Net Zero Eurasia Group as the publisher for G0 Media, a position he started in the fall of 2022. He's also recently a special correspondent on CTV, but resigned from that role prior to Mark Carney being elected as leader. Previously, Solomon worked at Bell Media as the host of Ottawa Now, etc., one of these media guys. In June 15, he was let go from CBC after the Toronto Star reported they allegedly took commissions for brokering art sales involving people who also dealt with him as a journalist. So he would interview people and then broker art deals with them and take a commission, and made something like $300,000 doing that. Says Solomon denied any wrongdoing, saying in a statement at the time that he did not view the art business as a conflict with my political journalism. No. Having connections to these very wealthy people and doing art deals with them, Mark Carney being one of them, no, not a conflict at all. This was so bad to the point that CBC fired him. Going down memory lane, we're going to look at exactly that.
Evan Solomon is gone from the CBC. The former host of Power and Politics here on CBC News Network and The House on CBC Radio was fired last night after a report alleging he brokered art deals with people with whom he was involved as a journalist. James Murray takes us through the allegations.
Allegations that were first raised by Toronto Star investigative journalist Kevin Donnellan, who said that after an investigation into Evan's private business affairs away from the CBC, that they had uncovered a sort of secret sideline in art dealership. Apparently, Evan Solomon had a long-standing relationship with a man who most Canadians would never have heard of, but is very well known in world art circles as an art collector, and it seems someone who is trying to unload some of his paintings. It seems a deal was struck for a commission, a 10% commission that was done in secret. If Evan Solomon, it seems, could introduce this art collector to some famous and influential people like Jim Balsillie, formerly of Research in Motion and BlackBerry, and Mark Carney, who was the governor of the Bank of Canada, now the governor of the Bank of England. Apparently, much of this went on without the CBC knowing anything about it until recently, it seems. We're hearing that that the CBC only recently found out about this. Kevin Donovan and the Toronto Star came to the CBC this week with very specific allegations, and it only took about a day and a half before Evan Solomon was suspended and then let go from the CBC.
And in response to that shock firing last night, James, what kind of reaction are we hearing today?
Well, none of the people involved, Heather, despite many of them making their living doing broadcast interviews, are willing to do broadcast interviews today. The CBC...
Is that right? So Evan didn't want to speak on this. Wonder why? For anyone who's unfamiliar, art sales, art dealings, this is usually where you find money laundering because the value of paintings is subjective. Oh, it makes me feel a certain way. $5 million. They're able to shuffle money in through art sales because it's such a nebulous, subjective prices that are put on art. That's not what this story is about, but it's big art dealing. You've got big bankers, high profile people with a lot of money doing these deals, and he's introducing to them. So there's probably more to this story than we know.
He has only issued a written statement. There was a statement yesterday that was emailed to employees from our editor-in-chief for public notice. Chuck Thompson, our head of our CBC Media Relations, issued this written statement saying, based on information that's come to our attention, we've determined that some of Evan Solomon's activities were inconsistent with our conflict of interest and ethics policy, as well as our journalistic standards and practices. That's a written statement that was released from Chuck Thompson, the head of our CBC Media Relations. Evan Solomon, again, somebody who made his living the past 20 years doing broadcast interviews, apparently not giving them today, but has issued a written statement through a law firm saying, I did not view the art business as a conflict with my political journalism at the CBC and never intentionally used my position at the CBC to promote the business. I'm deeply sorry for the damage that my activities have done to the trust the CBC and its viewers and listeners have put in me. And he also writes that he has the utmost respect for the CBC and what it stands for. Mark Carney also giving a statement. He seems to have been caught up in all of this. Through the Bank of England, there was a statement released today saying that he has no ongoing or enduring relationship with Evan Solomon and that he does not comment on his own private affairs.
No ongoing relationship, yet Evan Solomon went to go work with his wife at the Eurasia Group, and now he's running as a Liberal for Mark Carney. These words are coming back to bite him, because obviously there's some sort of relationship there, isn't there, Mark?
Well, it is private affairs that has certainly gotten Evan Solomon's public job here at the CBC into jeopardy. He's gone from essentially having his face on the building to having no job here at all in a matter of hours, less than a matter of days, Heather.
Didn't seem to affect him that much. He went on to the Eurasia Group. So we got more ties here. Jumping back to this article, I showed this probably a few days ago regarding Mark Carney art sales. So this one here, Justin Trudeau replacement. Canadian Liberal leader Mark Carney's deep ties to U.S. Democrat bigwigs exposed. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now between, you got George Soros being exposed to funding so many people on the Democrats. He is funding all this stuff on America, the Clinton Foundation. And we've got right here John Podesta, who's a big time art dealer. So it says here in particular, Carney is linked to John Podesta, appointed the controversial custodian of $375 billion Democrat slush fund by ex-President Joe Biden. The link between Podesta and Carney, the new Liberal leader, has controversially been pictured alongside the Joffrey Eggstein and these people here. Comes via Gerald Butts. Gerald Butts is the connection a lot of time introducing a lot of these people. It says a former political advisor to Justin Trudeau. There's all these sort of links. I just wanted to point out this link here, Mark Carney to John Podesta, the big-time art dealer, who's also connected directly to George Soros. So it's interesting that we have this connection now, Mark Carney going to Evan Solomon. I would have loved it if somebody asked Mark Carney about this event. What art did he buy? How much did he pay? Just put him on the spot with that, because he'd probably be pretty shocked to get that question. If we go back to this clip here that Vesper posted.
The host of Power and Politics and the House was taken off the air Monday after CBC managers became aware of information in this Toronto Star report. It alleges Solomon partnered with art collector Bruce Bailey and used his journalistic contacts to broker art deals with prominent people like former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney, who appeared on his show, and former BlackBerry co-CEO Jim Balsillie, with whom he interacted as a journalist. The report claims Solomon collected a 10% commission on sales he helped arrange and was paid hundreds of thousands of dollars over 2 years.
This dirty dog. So it was about $300,000 he made Just filthy, dirty art sales. Mark Carney all wrapped up in this. And now going back to this, he's running for federal Liberals in the next election. We want this guy representing Canadians? I don't think so. Not someone who's been proven to be doing dirty deals. And just to solidify Mark Carney's position on net zero, we've got this one here. Mark Nixon posted. This is from last year, Mark Carney on Vasi Capello's show. As he says here, proof all the Liberals do is lie and gaslight Canadians. Carney flip-flop on the carbon tax. Chrystia Freeland, kids go hungry. Karina Gould, net zero, the only way forward.
Let me flip it around. If we took away the price on pollution, more than two-thirds of Canadians would be worse off. They would receive less than, they get the price off on the carbon they're spending, but they would receive less in terms of the transfer. And I think very few people understand that. It is not apparent that the leader of the opposition even understands that, or certainly his rhetoric is totally inconsistent with that.
I would also like to ask Canada's 1%. In fact, Canada's 0.13% to consider this. What kind of a Canada do you want to live in? Do you want to live in a country where kids go to school hungry?
She's so awful. They're all so awful.
Do you want to live in a country where a teenage girl gets pregnant just because she doesn't have the money to buy birth control?
I think what it comes down to at the end of the day is what are the alternatives that are being positioned in order to actually bring those greenhouse gas emissions down, and in order to actually make sure that we are building an economy of the 21st century that is either low or no carbon, and is creating those good green jobs, and is making sure that we have a planet for our kids and grandkids to grow into.
It's funny because she was one of those Trudeau bootlickers through and through the entire way through, and she didn't get a cabinet position in Mark Carney's cabinet. She got tossed out with the trash. Liberals flip-flop again. Carney's carbon tax U-turns proves it. Yeah, exactly. Vasi's face, she was looking like, I'm not buying a single thing that Carney's saying there. You look so full of BS. Look. Next up, I thought this was interesting because somebody labeled all these people. So we already knew that Mark Carney and Mark Carney's wife here, Diana Carney, as well as this lady here that was the associate girlfriend of Joffrey Eggstein. But this guy, I didn't know who this guy is. Philip Michael Hildenbrand, a Swiss banker who's become a vice chairman of BlackRock since 2012. Mark Carney definitely hanging around with the global elitists. Next up, we got Andrew Haynes posting this. Alberta will separate if Carney Liberals are elected, is my prediction. Then Canada will be bankrupt. End of story. I think this is a possibility. I think there's a greater possibility that there would be a mass exodus, especially if Trump pulls the ultimate Trump card. I've mentioned this. If he pulls that Trump card and says, you know what? We will allow any Canadian to come down here super easy. Especially if he makes it like contingent that you have to be a welder, a mechanic, a construction worker, a scientist, etc. Workers that are going to build the GDP. You'll just see the greatest brain drain from Canada, and our country will completely collapse. Then Liberal voters will be looking around going, what happened? Well, I thought the net zero was going to save us. I thought the banker knew what he was doing. Will they learn their lesson though? I don't know. There seems to be a lot of Canadians that don't have deductive reasoning skills. They can't just filter through common sense. Well, if government steals money from citizens for 10 years, maybe we don't re-elect them. We got a clip here of Pierre Poilievre from a rally the other day. Mark Nixon posting this one. Canada should be rich. We have all these resources. We should be rich.
We have the second biggest land mass, the third biggest proven oil reserves, the sixth biggest lithium reserves, the biggest uranium and potash reserves, the biggest oceanic coastline of any country in the world, 154 million acres of farmland. We have an abundance of energy that can power these massive data centers, and we have the cold weather to cool them. We have 41 million highly educated, hardworking people ready to get the job done. So why aren't we the richest country in the world? Why have we lost $500 billion to the Americans and had the worst economic growth of all our competitors over the last 10 years? Why has our per capita GDP gone up so slow? In fact, the American per capita GDP has gone up 40 times faster than Canada's over the last decade. Well, that is the lost Liberal decade of blocking, taxing, and driving away business. A decade during which the Liberals were in power and Mark Carney was, for half of that time, the economic advisor to Justin Trudeau.
The lost decade. We have all lost because of it. Can't tell you how many people I've come across that have no hope and have given up. They don't see a future at all. I see a lot of people like that. I get a lot of emails from people like that. A lot of people, especially with the polling numbers and stuff right now, a lot of people are losing hope. We all have to get out and vote. That is the one thing we got to do. We all have to go vote. Check out this video coming from America. So they're deporting a bunch of people. This one here, it says they're deporting Venezuelan gang members to El Salvador. The United States is paying El Salvador $6 million to detain and house 300 Venezuelan gangs in the country's infamous prison system. So this just keeps going and going. They keep bringing out guy after guy after guy. This is all a big display to show Trump's delivering on this promise, you can see here. And they bring them into the jails, shave them up. Gangster after gangster after gangster. We need to get rid of the gangsters in Canada. This is a huge win for America. There we have it. Mark Carney building quite the team around himself, isn't he? Evan Solomon, guy who worked with his wife, Eurasia Group, another net zero guy. Mark Carney is bringing in all the net zero losers to help destroy Canada, isn't he? That's why he didn't get rid of radical Stephen Guilbeault. There's more and more news breaking here every single day on what's going on, as you saw previously with Carney and the coal mine. Taking advantage of coal miners, we have Mark Carney through Brookfield taking advantage of the impoverished people of Peru. Mark Carney, not a good guy, not an honorable guy, not a respectable guy. He's just a billionaire who takes advantage of people, and he's here to suck Canada dry.